Emma Baker stared at her phone, her hands trembling as she typed out the message. James, I hate to ask again, but I really need $40 for Lily's formula. I get paid Friday. I swear I'll pay you back. She paused for a moment, her thumb hovering over the send button. The words felt heavy and humiliating, but the hunger in her baby's cries drowned out any pride she had left. Without another thought, she hit send and slumped back against the threadbare couch, exhaustion crashing down on her like a tidal wave. The dim light from the lamp beside her cast soft shadows over the small living room. The baby monitor beside her emitted a gentle crackle, and the faint rhythmic sound of her 6-month-old daughter's breathing filled the quiet. Emma glanced at the monitor and saw Lily peacefully asleep, her tiny chest rising and falling in time. A bittersweet feeling washed over her. No mother wanted to see their child go hungry. Emma's bank account balance was barely enough to cover a cup of coffee, showing a sad $2.13. The formula she had left was dangerously low, and she had already watered down the last bottle more than she should have. She felt the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. The message she just sent was her last hope for now. 3 miles away, in a sleek, modern penthouse office overlooking the city, Alexander Reed was deep into his day. The 42-year-old CEO of Meridian Technologies was used to constant buzzes and notifications, but the one that lit up his phone screen this afternoon was different. He expected another update about the big merger his company was working on. Instead, he saw a text from a number he didn't recognize, a message filled with desperation and urgency. It was a plea for money for baby formula, sent to the wrong number. Alexander frowned. He rarely shared his personal phone number, and only a select few had it. This had to be a mistake. He considered ignoring it and moving on, but something about the raw emotion in those few lines made him pause. His fingers hovered over the screen before he typed a short reply. Emma's phone pinged almost immediately with a message that made her heart stop. I think you have the wrong number. I'm not James. Her stomach dropped. She double-checked the number she had sent the message to and realized with a sinking feeling that she'd typed the last digit of her brother's new phone number wrong. I'm so sorry, please ignore that wrong number, she typed quickly before tossing her phone aside. Mortification mixed with exhaustion burned through her. It was another failure in a long string of them. Back in his office, Alexander couldn't explain why he didn't just let it go. Maybe it was the mention of a baby. Maybe it was the break in the monotony of cutthroat business negotiations that had consumed his life for months. Without thinking, he typed, Is your baby going to be okay? Emma blinked in confusion. Why would a stranger care? She had heard too many stories about people online who weren't trustworthy, but the exhaustion and desperation clouded her judgment. She typed back, We'll manage. No strings attached, came the quick reply. Emma let out a short, bitter laugh. In her experience, there were always strings. Thanks, but I don't take money from strangers, she wrote. I'm Alex now. I'm not a stranger. What formula does your baby need? Alexander asked, his curiosity genuine. Emma stared at the message. Suspicion warred with a flicker of hope. Why would someone help her, a complete stranger? Alexander gazed out over the city skyline from his office. Why indeed? His assistant would say he was procrastinating on reviewing merger documents. His ex-wife might say he was having another impulsive moment. Both would be partly right. Let's just say I've been fortunate, and I remember when I wasn't, he typed. Emma's tired mind barely processed the words. The formula on the shelf was the only one that didn't make Lily scream for hours. Famille Gently's. It was also the most expensive. She hesitated before typing. I don't feel right about this. What's your Venmo? Alexander asked. Emma hesitated for a moment before sending her username. What did she have to lose? If things got weird, she could block this person. Seconds later, her phone buzzed. Emma gasped. Alex hadn't sent $40. He had sent $400. This is too much, she typed frantically. I can't accept this. Consider it an advance for the next few months, Alexander replied. Tears sprang to Emma's eyes. She hadn't cried when she was laid off 2 months ago. She hadn't cried when James, her only family, moved across the country for work, leaving her without a safety net. She hadn't cried when the landlord slipped a late rent notice under her door yesterday. but this unexpected kindness from a complete stranger broke something open inside her. "Thank you," she typed simply, unable to find words to express the depth of her gratitude. "You're welcome, Emma. Take care of Lily," Alexander replied. Hours later, Emma returned from the store, formula and groceries in hand. But then she realized something that made her blood run cold. She had never told this stranger her daughter's name. She stared at the phone screen in disbelief, the weight of what had just happened settling in. This stranger, who had no reason to care, had stepped in to help her at her lowest moment. And just like that, a tiny spark of hope flickered in the dark. The next morning, Emma woke to the familiar buzz of her phone. She blinked awake, rubbing sleep from her eyes, and saw a new message from Alex. "Hope you and Lily had a better night. I have a proposition for you." Emma's heart skipped. She immediately felt a knot of suspicion tighten in her chest. What kind of proposition? She thought bitterly, expecting strings or some catch. "What kind of proposition?" she typed, her fingers trembling slightly. "Professional, not personal," came the quick reply. "I run a company called Meridian Technologies. We need someone with accounting skills for a short-term project. Your brother James mentioned you were looking for work." Emma nearly dropped her phone. How did he know her brother, and how did he know she was an accountant? Her heart raced as she opened her social media profiles, all locked down tight and private. Who was this person? "I apologize for the intrusion," Alex wrote. "After our conversation yesterday, I was curious. Your number is very similar to James Connors, who works in my HR department. When I mentioned the wrong number text to him this morning, he realized who you must be. He speaks very highly of your accounting skills." Emma sank back against the couch, relief and weariness battling inside her. It made sense, but the coincidence was still unsettling. Was this all really just chance? "Completely," Alexander confirmed. "But perhaps a fortunate one for both of us. We genuinely need help with a project reconciling accounts before a merger. It's a 3-month contract with the possibility of permanent placement. Would you be interested in interviewing?" Emma's mind raced. It felt too perfect, too convenient. But her brother did work in HR at a tech company she hadn't paid much attention to before. She'd been sending out resumes for weeks with no luck. Could she afford to turn down an opportunity because of suspicion? "I'd be interested in hearing more," she finally replied, cautious. "But I'd need flexibility. I have Lily and childcare is—" She trailed off, unsure. "We offer on-site childcare for employees," Alexander wrote back immediately. "And flexible working hours. Come in tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll tell reception to expect you." Emma prepared Lily's morning bottle, trying to shake the nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. The coincidence was too convenient, the timing suspicious. But with her savings gone and rent due, did she have the luxury to question this gift? What she didn't know was that across town, Alexander Reed was already having second thoughts about his impulsive decision. He wondered if he'd overstepped, if this was going to backfire on both of them. The next morning, Emma stood outside the towering glass building of Meridian Technologies, Lily strapped safely in her carrier. She adjusted her only professional blazer, a thrift store find, but still presentable, and pushed through the revolving doors. A security guard smiled as she approached. "Emma Baker?" he asked. At her nod, he said, "Mr. Reed's office is on the top floor. Martha will meet you at the elevator." Emma's heart pounded as Martha, an elegant woman in her 50s, greeted her and led her not to a conference room, but to a corner office suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "He'll be with you shortly," Martha said, gesturing to a plush sitting area. Emma settled Lily on the leather couch beside her, the baby mercifully asleep after the morning's preparation. As she took in the surroundings, the office felt surprisingly warm for a CEO's space. Books lined one wall, family photos dotted the desk, and a guitar stood in the corner, an odd contrast to the corporate success. She heard a deep voice from the doorway. "She looks peaceful." Emma turned to see a tall man in an expensive suit, watching her with keen interest. Laugh lines softened his otherwise serious expression. This was Alexander Reed, the man who had sent her $400 for baby formula. Mr. Reed, Emma said, standing quickly. Thank you for seeing me. Alex, please, he corrected, stepping forward to shake her hand. His grip was firm but brief. Thank you for coming on such short notice. There was a moment of awkward silence as they both acknowledged the strange circumstances that had brought them here. I should explain yesterday's texts, Alex said, taking a seat across from her. I don't usually send money to wrong numbers. I don't usually accept it either. Emma counted the seconds before finding her voice. I'm still not comfortable with how this happened. Alex nodded, respecting her honesty. Fair enough. Yesterday was the anniversary of my daughter's death. Emma's breath caught. I'm so sorry. Charlotte would have been 8, he continued, eyes drifting toward Lily. She fought leukemia for 3 years. Emma instinctively reached for Lily's carrier, a protective gesture that didn't go unnoticed. When I got your text about needing formula, Alex said quietly, it felt like a chance to help someone the way I couldn't help her. His explanation disarmed Emma. The suspicion she'd held, the thought that this was some elaborate setup or worse, began to dissolve. The job? She asked cautiously. Completely legitimate, he assured her. The connection with your brother was coincidence, but when I mentioned the wrong number story to HR this morning, James recognized the situation right away. He's been worried about you. Emma felt a flush of embarrassment. James didn't know how bad things had gotten. She hadn't wanted him to worry while he was still building his own life. Family pride, Alex said with understanding. I know something about that too. He handed her a folder. Inside were the details of the position. 3 months, full benefits, competitive salary. We're preparing for a merger and need someone to reconcile some accounts, he said. Emma scanned the documents, her accounting background kicking in immediately. The salary was more than she'd made at her last job. This is very generous for a temporary position, she said. We pay for quality, Alex replied simply. James showed me your resume. 2 years at Diote, top of your class at Georgetown. You're overqualified, if anything. Martha returned with coffee and water, giving Emma a moment to collect herself. The job was real. The salary would solve her immediate crisis, but something still nagged at her. Why didn't you just tell me who you were from the start? She asked after Martha left. Alex sipped his coffee, considering. Would you have believed me? Hi, I'm a CEO. Let me help you. Probably not. Emma admitted he had a point. And this is rather unorthodox, he added. The board would have questions about me personally reaching out. Lily stirred in her carrier, making small noises Emma recognized as the start of a hunger cry. Practiced hands lifted the baby and reached for the diaper bag. May I? Alex asked, gesturing to a door near his desk. There's a kitchenette through there, more private, he added. Emma nodded gratefully and slipped into the small break room to prepare Lily's bottle. Her mind raced. The job seemed legit, the company reputable, but the situation was strange enough to make her hesitate. When she returned, Alex was on the phone, his voice low and tense. I don't care what Patterson thinks. We're not selling that division because I gave my word to those employees. He caught sight of Emma and quickly ended the call. Sorry about that, he said. Merger negotiations are always tense. Emma settled back on the couch with Lily in her arms. Sounds complicated? Business usually is, Alex replied, watching her carefully. You're good with her, he said. I had to be, Emma said softly. My father left when he found out I was pregnant. It's just been us. Alex's expression darkened, his loss obvious. The conversation shifted to the job, hours, responsibilities, timeline. Emma found herself relaxing as they spoke about familiar accounting territory. At least, this made sense. One last thing, Alex said as the meeting wrapped up. The on-site daycare is excellent but has a waiting list. Until a spot opens, would you be comfortable working from my private office? There's a small conference room you can use, and Lily would be welcome. Emma was surprised by the offer. That's unusually accommodating. I told you we need your skills, Alex replied, though something in his eyes suggested more than business. And the work needs to be confidential given the sensitive merger details, he added. Before she could respond, Martha appeared at the door. Mr. Reed, your 10:30 is waiting. Alex stood and extended his hand. So, Emma Baker, do we have a deal? Emma hesitated only briefly before shaking his hand. Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Perfect. Martha will help with paperwork. You can start Monday. He paused at the door and added, the $400 was a gift, not an advance. No need to pay it back. Before Emma could protest, he was gone. The moment left her with the feeling that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't yet imagine. 3 weeks into her contract at Meridian Technologies, Emma had settled into a routine that still felt surreal. Every morning, she and Lily took the elevator to the top floor, where Martha greeted them with a warm smile and often a cup of coffee for Emma. The small conference room next to Alex's office had been transformed into a functional workspace, complete with a portable crib for Lily's naps. The financial reconciliation project was challenging but engaging, exactly the kind of work Emma had excelled at before Lily's birth had derailed her career plans. The discrepancies she'd been hired to investigate were subtle but significant, consistent patterns of small financial irregularities that individually meant little but collectively suggested something more troubling. These numbers don't add up, Emma murmured to herself one afternoon, eyes fixed on the spreadsheets glowing on her dual monitors. Lily babbled happily from her playmat on the floor, entertained by the colorful toys Martha had mysteriously produced on Emma's second day. A soft knock interrupted her concentration. Alex stood at the door, his tie loosened and his usual confident expression softened by fatigue. "Making progress?" he asked, stepping inside and crouching down to greet Lily, who squealed in delight at the attention. The baby had grown inexplicably attached to Alex, reaching for him whenever he appeared. "Some?" Emma replied, watching their interaction with a mix of warmth and caution. "But I found something concerning in the Thompson acquisition accounts." Alex's focus shifted immediately. "Show me." Emma pulled up the relevant files and explained the pattern she'd uncovered. "These variances are too consistent to be accidental. Someone's been siphoning small amounts from multiple accounts and covering their tracks with adjusted entries." Alex's expression darkened as he studied the screen. "How much are we talking about?" "About $3 million over the past 18 months, Emma said quietly. "You're sure?" Alex asked, his voice steady but tense. "It's why you hired me, isn't it?" Emma countered. Alex ran a hand through his hair. "Yes, of course." He leaned back in his chair and sighed deeply. "I need you to prepare a complete report, but don't share this with anyone, not even your brother or the CFO. Emma raised an eyebrow. "Especially not Vince?" Alex's jaw tightened. "Especially not Vince. Not until we know more." After he left, Emma sat back in her chair, troubled by his warning. Why would the CEO want to keep potential embezzlement from his own CFO unless there was something more going on? She told herself not to jump to conclusions. "Don't go creating conspiracies," she muttered silently, but the seed of doubt had been planted. That evening, after putting Lily to bed in their now more comfortable apartment, thanks to her Meridian salary, Emma began her own investigation. She worked late into the night, compiling a timeline of the discrepancies she'd found. The financial irregularities had begun shortly after Vincent Harmon had been appointed CFO, following the sudden resignation of his predecessor. The next morning, Emma arrived at the office earlier than usual, determined to speak with Alex before the day's meetings. She found his office dark, which was unusual. He usually arrived before anyone else. Her phone buzzed with a text notification. "Emergency board meeting. Use the time to finish your report. We'll talk later." The vague message did nothing to ease her growing unease. Emma settled Lily in her play area and dove back into the financial records, expanding her search parameters. By lunchtime, her suspicions had solidified into certainty. Someone high up in Meridian was systematically embezzling funds. The pattern suggested intimate knowledge of the company's financial oversight systems. She was so engrossed in her work she didn't notice Vincent Harmon until he stood in her doorway, his imposing figure blocking the light. "Hard at work, I see," he said smoothly. Emma instinctively minimized her screen. "Mr. Harmon, can I help you?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I understand you've been working on a special project for Alex. Curious he didn't involve the finance department." Emma replied vaguely, "Just some reconciliation for the merger." Vincent stepped further into the room, glancing at Lily, who watched him solemnly. "Convenient arrangement you have here. Private office, bringing your child to work. Alex must think highly of you." The insinuation was clear and made Emma's cheeks flush with indignation. "Mr. Reed values efficiency," she said stiffly, "and I found several issues that needed addressing." "I'm sure you have," Vincent said coldly, "but Meridian was doing fine before you arrived. It'll continue long after your contract ends." After he left, Emma sat shaking, both angry and frightened. The confrontation confirmed her suspicion that Vincent saw her as a threat. It also suggested others might see her special arrangement with Alex as something inappropriate. Still processing the encounter, her phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. "Emma Baker speaking," she answered professionally. "Miss Baker, this is Detective Russo with the Financial Crimes Division," the woman's brisk voice said. "I understand you're employed at Meridian Technologies. We're investigating irregularities in the accounts and would like to ask a few questions." Emma's blood ran cold. "Yes, that's correct. Could we continue this conversation at our office this afternoon?" By the time Alex returned from his meeting around 3 p.m., Emma was nearly frantic. She pulled him into his office, closing the door behind her. "The police called me," she blurted out. "Financial Crimes Division. They want me to come in for questioning. And Vincent Harmon was here, acting suspicious about what I'm working on." Alex's face paled. "Damn it," he muttered. "This is happening faster than I expected." He paced the room, then turned with unexpected intensity. "Emma, I need to tell you something. I need you to trust me." "Trust you?" she echoed, incredulous. "Alex, what's going on? Am I being set up?" "No," he said firmly. "The opposite. I need to show you something." He unlocked a drawer and pulled out a thick file. "I haven't been entirely honest about why I hired you." Emma felt the floor shift beneath her. "What do you mean? You weren't randomly assigned to me through a wrong number?" she asked. Alex's voice was low and urgent. "I've been investigating internal theft at Meridian for months. We needed someone outside the company with no connections to executives. Someone trustworthy. Your brother mentioned you months ago. Your skills, your situation. When we needed someone, I remembered." Emma felt sick. "You manipulated me." "Not like you think," Alex said. "I'm working with the FBI. Vincent Harmon isn't just stealing, he's laundering money through our international divisions." Emma sank into a chair, her mind racing. The detective who called was real, Alex confirmed. But she needed to be careful what she said. They didn't know who else might be involved. Before she could respond, Martha burst into the office out of breath. "Alex," she said, voice shaking. "They're here. Board security and police. They have a warrant for your arrest. They're saying you've been embezzling, and that Emma is an accomplice." Emma clutched Lily, terror washing over her. This couldn't be happening. Alex's face hardened. "Martha, use the private elevator. Get Emma and Lily out now. Take them to the safe house." "The safe house?" Emma whispered, feeling like she was living in a thriller. "Alex, I can't just—" "Listen carefully," he interrupted, gripping her shoulders. "Vincent knows you found evidence. He's trying to frame us both. If you stay, they'll separate you from Lily while you're questioned." The thought of being torn from her baby gave Emma the strength to act. She quickly packed Lily's things while Martha gathered files from her desk. "What about you?" Emma asked as they moved toward a hidden door behind the bookcase. "I'll handle this," he said grimly. "I have allies on the board. Stay safe. I'll contact you." He hesitated, then added softly, "I'm sorry for not being honest, but everything else, the way I feel about you and Lily, that's been real." Before Emma could respond, Martha guided her through the hidden passage to the private elevator. The safe house was a modest but comfortable apartment in a secure building across town. Emma paced the living room while Lily slept in the portable crib Martha had procured, along with diapers and formula. "You seem prepared for this," Emma observed, watching the older woman arrange supplies. Martha's expression softened. "Alex has been planning this for months. The discrepancies first appeared 6 months ago. Finding you was a coincidence, but Alex saw an opportunity." Emma struggled to understand her feelings, betrayal mixed with relief. "Why not go to authorities from the start?" she asked. "The first investigation was quietly closed. Vincent has powerful friends," Martha replied. Alex needed irrefutable proof. Emma sank onto the couch, overwhelmed. "And now I'm hiding in a safe house, like a character in a thriller, while Alex might be arrested for crimes he didn't commit." Martha smiled gently. "He can take care of himself. He's been preparing." Hours passed with no word. Emma distracted herself, reviewing files Martha saved. At midnight, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Are you safe?" "Yes," she typed carefully. "It's me. Had to ditch my regular phone. Police took my devices but released me for now. Vincent's playing this carefully. What happens now?" "Now we use what you found. My FBI contact meets us tomorrow at 10 a.m. Emma stared at the message. By agreeing to meet the FBI, she'd put herself in danger, but the thought of running away and abandoning justice felt wrong. "I'll be there," she replied.